say that? Oh, not recorded. There's a book member like a spot out there. All right. We call our meeting for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 to order. Welcome, everybody. We still are in, I guess, COVID mode. So our council meeting tonight is not open to the public. Of course, the public can see online what we're doing. Our staff are, everybody is social distance here. Our staff is here, CAO and Director of Infrastructure, Public Works, Director of Community Services, Director of Finance, Director of Planning, and our clerks and our communication person is in the back doing the camera and looking after all that stuff. I only mention that because somebody commented me before that it's nice to know who is at the meeting, what staff are here, so I just did that to acknowledge everybody is here. I guess the if anybody wants to submit a question for Q&A session, Don, do we have any as of right now? Okay, so we don't have any for the first one. So if you think of something that you want to ask a question about during the meeting, you can send an email to dchaplin@torbay.ca and we'll look at it at the second Q&A session. New business. Councillor Glenn.
Just a quick thanks.
Thanks. Councillor Pollard.
Pass.
Pass. Councillor Thorngas. Pass. Councillor Roach. Pass. Councillor Martin.
Ready Drive Road conditions and a recurring matter on Moores Valley Road.
They're not really go-around items.
I can address them when through the committee reports if you wish.
Okay. You got anything for the go-around?
Just a thank you.
Okay. And I got it, thanks. With that, motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please.
So moved.
Mover seconder. Moved by Councillor Glent, seconded by Councillor Thorngas. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All righty. Public council minutes for July 20th, 2020. Motion to adopt those, please.
So moved.
Councillor Martin, seconder. Second. Councillor Thorngas. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving along. Conflict of interest. Anybody have any interest they need to declare?
Yeah, I'll ask you one question then.
Sure.
The people who are building that new building on Torbay Road for the kitchen, you know, are they the same people who were on Major's Path?
No.
Different ones?
This is conflict of interest piece.
No, I know, but I'm only asking you that because once on Major's Path goes down, I want to go to that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know what I mean? I didn't want to be.
All right. Fine. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Proclamations. We don't have any. Presentations. None. Q&A. None. Mayor's report. I think I'll forego that. I'll just do my thanks on the go around. Business arising is being dealt with in the committee reports, right? Maybe we need to adjust our agenda a little bit. Correspondence. There's correspondence here from Canadian Blood Services. It's a thank you letter to me for the blood donations that I've been doing, but they also are asking for us to support their blood drives and advertising and stuff like that. So that's fine. That's neither here nor there. It's just there for information. We have one from Department of Municipal Affairs and Environment. It's our capital application for North Pound water treatment. And that's there for information. One here for gas tax agreement. And there's one here for Municipal Assessment Agency taxpayer representatives. So might as well pass along congratulations to former Councillor Caroline Smith, who is now a taxpayer representative with Municipal Assessment Agency. So good for her. I'm sure she'll do lots of good work out there. Anybody have any questions on any of those letters? Nice, good, moving on. Committee of the whole, we don't have any reports for there. Planning, land use development. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Committee met on July 21st and August 19th to bring forward to the meeting tonight. Myself and Councillor Thoran Goss attended as, I was the chair, and Councillor Thoran Goss attended as the committee member. Director Schwartz was our staff person, and we also had two additional attendees. Deputy Mayor attended as an observer, and we have our new DCO officer now, Paul. He also attended to get a feel of the flow. I have a series of items to review. The first one being 12 to 16 Corner Path, application number C2020-068, which is rebuilding of damaged cabin, non-conforming use, RUR use zone. And the background is the town of Torbay is in receipt of the application by the owner of 1216 Corner Path proposing the rebuild to their existing 45.89 square meter cabin, which was fully destroyed from snow load during the last winter at 62.43 meters square in size. Subject property is located in the rural land use zone. An existing cabin, which is for seasonal residence use, is non-conforming use in the rural land use zone. A detailed background report associated with this application forms part of this motion and is attached for reference. After lengthy discussion at committee and review of different components, we've concluded with the following recommendation, which is committee noted that the cabin was fully destroyed from snow load during this last winter for 2019 and 2020, which is within the 12 months time frame where council can consider a proposed reconstruction. In addition, the proponent is also proposing to expand the cabin size to 62.43 meters squared, which falls within the maximum 50% increase of floor area that council may consider for non-conforming uses. The committee supports the rebuilding of the cabin at a slightly larger size. However, the committee does not believe that the reconstruction at a setback further than the existing cabin is within the intent of the legislation. Reconstruction would need to occur in the same location. In summary, the committee supports the reconstruction of the destroyed cabin at 12-16 Corner Path with a proposed expansion size of 62.43 meters, since the application was made within the 12 months of its destruction, and a 50% expansion may be considered by council. However, in keeping with the non-conforming use legislation, the submitted plot plan will need to be revised so the structure will be rebuilt at the same location. And based on this, the committee recommends that in accordance with regulation number 49, a conditional approval be issued for the reconstruction of a cabin that was destroyed during last winter at 1216 Corner Path, and therefore recommends tabling the following motion. And the motion is as presented. Motion to approve application number C2020-068 in accordance with regulation 49 of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025, and to issue a conditional approval for the reconstruction of a 62.43 meter squared cabin, which would be used only as a seasonal residence at 12-16 corner path, subject to the submission of a revised plot plan illustrating the cabin be set back at same building line as the cabin that was destroyed and subject to the standard building requirements in the town of Torbay. So moved.
Mover, seconder, questions, comments? I have a question, I guess, about the setback. So they wanted to move it back further from the road?
Originally, they wanted to change the location, and committee felt that it would be in the best interest of compliance to rebuild the existing structure. The modest extension that we support is to accommodate a porch or similar on the premises.
Okay. So, all right. I was just curious, that's all. If it says in our regs that you can't change the location.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I got no other questions. Anybody else have a question on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. The next one is 398 Pine Line, MV 2020-001 and C 2018-093, which is a residential accessory building variance request, and it's a residential infill land use zone. Background on this file is that the town of Torbay is in receipt of a variance application proposing to construct an accessory building in the rear yard of the subject property. The applicant is requesting a 10% variance to increase the total allowable accessory building coverage to 52.8 square meters. A detailed background report associated with this application forms part of this motion and is attached for reference. And after discussion, committee recommends that the attached departmental background report and the proposed variance request for an accessory building at 398 Pine Line, and noted that no representations were received in response to the public notice. Based on this, the committee found the proposal acceptable as presented and concurs with the department's recommendation to issue a conditional approval. Therefore, the committee recommends tabling the following motion as presented, whereas motion to approve application MV 2020-001 and C 2018-093 in accordance with regulations 11, 12, and 33 of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025, and to issue a conditional approval for the construction of a 52.8 meter square garage in the rear yard of the property at 398 Pine Line, as per conditions outlined in the attached departmental background report and standard building conditions report in the town of Torbay. So moved.
Mover, seconder, questions, comments? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the next one is a recurring is an application that we had looked at in the past, which is located at 439 Pine Line, which is application number BR 2020-008, home occupation, woodworking, cabinet making, discretionary use, and it's zoned as a residential infill land use zone. The background on this file, as most of you may recall, is we are in receipt of an application proposing to operate a home-based woodworking cabinet-making business at 439 Pine Line. The existing garage is proposed to be used for the business. The proposal specifies that there will be no customers coming to the subject property. There will be no associated signage. All paint used will be water-based. There will be no loud noise, and all employees will be fitted with a dust collector. All equipment, my apologies. There will be one non-resident employee. Sufficient off-street parking will be provided to accommodate the non-resident employee. An application, file number DE 2017-134, was previously received on September 5th, 2017, to establish a cabinet making and woodworking business at 439 Pine Line, and was refused at a public meeting of council on October 23rd, 2017. Subject property is located within the residential infill land use zone. The proposed business is considered a light industry workshop use and is listed as a discretionary use within the residential infill land use zone. A detailed background report associated with the application forms part of this motion and is attached for reference. And after lengthy discussion, once again, committee had concluded with the following recommendation. And the committee reviewed the departmental background report and noted that in comparison to the previous application and refusal in 2017, this time there was only one representation in objection to the proposal. The committee observed that the subject property is located on the edge of the residential zone, close to commercial zoning on Torbay Road. It is situated in an area where some commercial uses exist, including the construction of the new commercial building on the intersection of Torbay Road and Pine Line, which is also going to be a cabinetry facility. While it is likely that there will be some associated coming and goings of vehicles transporting or supplying materials, the applicant stated that there will be no visitors coming to the property. In light of the limited response to the notice, after much discussion by the committee and not taking the decision lightly, the committee recommends that a very specific conditional approval be issued for the operation of woodworking, kitchen cabinet workshop at 439 Pine Line. Conditions shall include, and these are a series of conditions we discussed to address concerns in keeping with condition 10 of the RI land use zone table, reference to require maintenance of all the residential character of the neighbourhood, to not cause any increase in traffic in the area, no creation of noise, odour, dust, fumes, hazard, and needing to be in keeping with the Torbay nuisance and noise bylaw. The committee also stated that the applicant would need to comply with these conditions, and if there was non-compliance, the town would have the right to withdraw the approval. And the motion is as presented. The committee therefore recommends tabling the following motion, and the motion is as presented to approve application BR 2020-008 in accordance with regulations 33 and 90 of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025, as well as condition 10 of the residential infill land use zone table and the Torbay nuisance and noise regulations, and to issue a detailed conditional approval as per conditions outlined above and in attached departmental background report. So moved.
Move. Mover and seconder. Questions?
And I would like to add a comment. We did receive two letters. One was a letter of support from a resident that was initially in objection of the development on the 2017 application, and the other was from a resident who had concerns about the noise pollution, traffic, and how it's going to be aesthetically affecting the neighbourhood. These are all scenarios that we considered in our discussion, as we noted. And we appreciate where concerns are coming from. There is a mixture of residential and commercial and industrial dwellings coming into Torbay, and I could certainly appreciate that residents would like to maintain a neighbourhood appeal to their property and their neighbourhood where they are out there in a mixture of different dwellings. I feel confident that with the terms and conditions met, the applicant can discreetly operate the business without causing continual disruption to the neighbourhood, and where there's no signage or clients allowed to come and go, it would be very minimal to the neighbourhood, and it would be very discreet. So I think, given the extra efforts that the applicant put in addition to the venting and the dust collecting, I think I feel comfortable supporting giving him an opportunity to try his business module, and if any issues come up in the future, we have our rules and regulations there to address and deal with if and when they come.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, because I do remember previously that this this was turned down. And so just very briefly, so what's the difference between what was submitted before and what was submitted now?
Before, and I don't have that motion readily in front of me. Before, there was no venting. There was no special venting or dust collecting acknowledged, and from what I recall, the concerns were the smell that would come, and discharge would come from the property, the noise from dusting, traffic flow, so on and so forth, which has been since modified in this application.
Okay, so I guess if memory serves me, I think the main concern of residents there, and again, so we have 1 for, 1 against, right? That's in the council, we have 50%, whatever, so.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about woodworking. I do know a fair bit about Pine Line, and it's a great residential neighborhood. I think it's one of the best,
Absolutely,
best streets in the whole world. And this is a light industry, so I don't see how you can have a woodworking shop without excess noise. Noise was the number 1 complaint concern last time, and I don't see how the noise would be mitigated. Again, I'd love to see people do their stuff, but I mean, people can buy different workshops. They can move their places of, they can move their workshops, but you can't move your home. So I'm a bit hesitant if you hear, lots of sawing noises and stuff like that, in the day and in the night, and it says here, no creation of noise. I mean, I don't believe there's going to be no creation of noise. That seems a bit, obviously there's going to be noise. So, but I'm having trouble supporting it, basically, because again, we turned down before, the noise thing hasn't been addressed, and even though there are, it's next to, Torbay Road and stuff like that, still, you would say it's in the area, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, it actually is a residential.
It is a residential.
It is 100% residential area, and this is a light industrial thing that's going to make a lot of noise in that area, and I'd hate to be unfair to residents there, right? They got a nice quiet street, it's going to be loud. I'm glad that they're trying to do the odor and dust and stuff, but the noise is a bit much. I assume is that.
Those comments are appreciated, and it was also discussed in our meeting when we discussed the file, and given the Torbay nuisance and noise regulations, and given our flexibility to revoke approval at a later date.
Sure. Sorry, I mean, okay, I was trying because of the time short. So, what specifically in the nuisance? When are they allowed to be sawing stuff and stuff going? What's the cutoff dates?
I don't have the times
Or
right
the
here
times.
in front of me, but the regulations when they were developed to.
Because I think normally it's 11 o'clock. I thought it was right.
It is. I mean, I could be out in my garage at my house,
Yeah.
and we're open sound up to 11 o'clock for a while.
Absolutely, but you can't be doing a commercial level of that. That way, you can be keeping your neighbors up for the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah,
For that stuff. So
and the applicant is going to have a non-resident in his home employee. I would assume that they would have set business hours during the day, and it's certainly something if needed we can work into our approval letter that they have fixed operating hours.
Yeah.
And if Director Schwartz has any additional commentary she'd like to add with regards to that, feel free.
So I'm just not convinced that light industrials, the Pine Line residential area is the place for
Okay.
light industrial.
Yeah, it's,
Very
it's
nice.
very close to the new commercial building that's going up.
Great. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I was going to suggest what Councillor Justin just said about the.
Microphone, Peggy.
Councillor Roach, could you use your microphone, please? Did you say you were in a conflict on this?
No,
Oh, okay, all right.
I asked about the.
All right.
No, I
Microphone.
think that
Your microphone's not on. There
Okay.
you go. Now it's on.
Now, I didn't think that I needed to, now I got to bring down my voice, okay. What I think that we could explain to them, that we do have our policies and procedures there, and I'm sure they're probably aware of that, and that, as an owner of a business, any business has to abide by that policy that we have. And so if the time is 9 o'clock or if it's 10 o'clock, then that's when the noise should stop. Same as if you had a garage there and cars were pulling in and it was beeping and stuff like that, you know? So, or is it going to be a select area where you can do some kind of industry and another area for a different kind of industry? We're not up to that,
Well, I
that
mean,
level yet.
this fits within our zoning.
That's good. So it does fit there. So I think we should give it a go, you know, and anybody who wants to stay in business obviously will follow the principles of the town and everything like that. And it is another taxpayer that we're looking at, and our town is growing, and more jobs will happen.
Thank you.
So I'm for it.
Thanks. Anybody else? Go ahead, Mary.
I'd just like to add that in the past application, there was probably even a petition that was done up against this, but this time around, the applicant went around and spoke with the residents and had approval from everybody. We just had the one that came in with regards to some issues, and it's a number of different things that's in here. Everybody's after taking time to go down over it. And that's what's different, is that he has spoken to the residents, and there's only the one that's outstanding with regards to last time he touched base with everybody else.
Okay, it's good practice on his part. Very good. Anyone else besides Councillor Glenn? You already spoke to him once. Go ahead.
I just Googled, so I'm not connected. It's 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Right.
Is the noise nuisance.
Our news, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so
Call the
other than
question.
that, I'm good to call the question.
All in favour?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? One opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have 24 Lower Street, application B 2020-121. It's for 6-foot wooden fence. RMD and CON use zone, which is residential medium density and conservation. Background on this file: the town of Torbay is in receipt of a proposal for the construction of a 6-foot fence in the rear of an existing accessory building at 24 Lower Street, south side of 21 Lower Street. The accessory building is associated with a dwelling on the north side of Lower Street. A proportion of the rear yard is located in the RMD land use zone. However, the majority of the rear yard is located in the conservation land use zone, as well as a shoreline conservation area management unit. A detailed background report and associated referrals form part of this motion and is attached for reference. And those were a contributing factor to the recommendation. And recommendation: the committee reviewed the departmental background report, associated referral commentary, and noted that the fence is proposed to be located in the conservation use zone in keeping with the conservation use zone table and associated conservation policy and regulations. The committee does not support the construction of a fence in the conservation zone, as it would set a precedence. The committee recommends refusal of the fence application at 21 Lower Street. The committee therefore recommends tabling the following motion, and the motion is to refuse the proposed construction of a 6-foot wooden fence in the rear yard of the accessory building at 24 Lower Street. As the proposed fence is located in the conservation zone, the shoreline habitat stewardship unit, as the construction of permanent structures is contrary to the Torbay Municipal Plan, conservation policies, and contrary to the conservation land use zone table. So moved.
The seconder. Any questions? I have some. I'm going to briefly turn the chair over to Councillor Roach so I can ask my questions. I don't know if anybody went down and looked at this, but I decided I was kind of confused when I saw an application for a fence right off the bat, because we don't normally do applications for fences. So I thought there was something about it. So I went and looked at it, the report, And I went down there and visited this evening on my way home just to see what I was going to be looking at, and the landowner happened to be home when I was talking to her. So basically what she told me is that her house is across the street. She doesn't have any backyard, no front yard. She has a little bit of land behind her garage that she wants to utilize. She's going to spread some stone out there and put a couple of lawn chairs. She wanted to put a fence up to protect herself from the parking lot next door. So right along the edge of her property and the parking lot to try and keep the snow or the snow plow from covering everything in the winter, and to give her some privacy. And part of that is in the conservation zone, which is why we reached out to our provincial water resources, Eastern Habitat Joint Ventures and Stewardship Association, and our Environment Committee. And all three of those bodies came back and said they never had an issue with this. And our planning considerations, the proposed fence does not negatively affect existing river or the trail in the area and is located at a height of land. Above-mentioned referrals have not referenced any specific concerns as it relates to the habitat, and the provincial water resources would require an issuance of a permit. So our staff here, our department, recommends approval of the fence. So obviously, if our staff is recommending it, doesn't go against our regulations. So I'm just curious of why we wouldn't permit them to put up that little bit of fence. It's only probably 10 feet long, and if anybody ever went down and looked at it and they said, it's not affecting anybody. It's protecting the applicant's piece of land behind her garage so she can put out a few lawn chairs and have a bit of enjoy her property. So I'm all about conservation and everything, but I think that if you went down and looked at this and saw where it was to, you'd shake your head and say, I don't know why that we wouldn't approve it. And I mean, that's evident from the fact that all of our environmental advisory committee, Eastern Habitat, the people that look after our management units, everything, nobody has an issue with this. So I'm kind of confused of why we wouldn't allow it. So to me, I think that we should allow them to put up that little bit of fence. If the property was there prior, particularly to us zoning it conservation, I would imagine, the apartment building next door is also there. Their entire parking lot is in conservation zone. And they got 4 sheds down there in the conservation zone, which were all probably there before. So if they wanted to pave their parking lot, would we not allow them to pave their parking lot because it's in the conservation zone? Like, this whole thing just don't make any sense to me. It's this private property that nobody else is using. It's not encroaching on anything. It's just providing somebody with a bit of enjoyment of their property. And, anyway, I would prefer that we allowed it to go ahead, but anyway, that's it. That's all I got to say.
Some questions, please. Is the,
Hang on, Councillor Roach.
I'm sorry.
I'll take the chair back now. You
I'm
can
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so is that height of the fence going to deter away from the coastline beauty or anything like that? I don't think it would be. And I can only imagine when you're in a situation like that, you would need to want to have something to keep yourselves together and, nice and all that stuff. I don't think it would lead to anything more because, like you said, now there's that parking lot there. And also I remember back in the day, years ago, I mean, you weren't supposed to put any bridges or wharfs out to the water and all that stuff. And that's been done. And it never stopped people from coming to Torbay. It never stopped the fishery from happening. It just adds to that person's property. And we'd all probably be in the same mind, to protect that little bit of what we have there or to make it safe for our children and whatever like that. So I think in hindsight that I would support the not the decision the committee made, but I think I would just support putting the fence up.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Goss?
I guess the fact that it's in conservation zone and not setting a precedent. Some of what you just mentioned, they've been down there for years before those other sheds and what have you. We had a situation, I don't know what council it was on, but down in Marine Drive where there was just a platform that somebody had where they could go out and have their lawn chairs. It was part, I guess, they never really got to build it, but let's say it was the floor of a gazebo. And we ended up going down and having them take that out of there. And are we going to do one thing in conservation zone and do something somewhere else? So we have a couple of other applications that even we've been dealing with that are in conservation zone or partly in conservation zone. So by approving this, it doesn't matter, it's a fence and it's in conservation. So that's why we looked at this and said, and not to set a precedent, that we be consistent with everything in conservation. And seeing some of the decisions that we've made in the past with regards to, especially down in Marine Drive, not allowing any kind of fence or platform. It'd be like down where the shale, and we discussed that in great length, down where the rock, the shale, the issue that we have down there. If we went down there and we suggested putting up a fence, it wouldn't be allowed to be put up down there, just because it's on the East Coast Trail and exactly where it's to. So what's the difference in putting a conservation zone, putting a fence up down there, and then putting one up down in Marine Drive, down where we have the shale? So it was the bigger picture that we were looking at.
All right, thank you.
So just want to speak to that because, of course, I'm very, very pro-conservation. I'm concerned about the precedent. Personally, I would actually take that if we wanted to. If we were not going to allow her to build or allow them to build the fence, I'd just take out that 6 feet of conservation. It's actually in the parking lot. Like this is like according to what I'm looking at here now, unless I'm wrong, that they just want to build a fence from that existing structure that's actually in a parking lot, right? So part of me is like, okay, just let them build it because, well, I want to confirm that we're actually allowed to. Like, I know we're not allowed to build structures in conservation zones. So if that's a preventative thing, then because I'm assuming it's not, but the mayor was saying that a fence doesn't qualify for that. So I'm
Well, hang on now, I didn't say it didn't qualify for, I said normally we don't take permits for fences.
right because it's not. But I thought, well, I guess it's not a permanent structure. I guess is what we had talked about before. Anyway, where it's actually is in a parking lot, I wouldn't be too. I don't think anyone is too concerned about that. I don't think any of the spirit of everything. I don't think it goes contrary to that. And now, but in different areas, I just don't want to take this inch. People go take a foot or a kilometer or a mile some other time. You know, you wouldn't put fences up for shale if that's part of the East Coast Trail. That's part of the super tourism view and stuff like that. You know, but if this is just in between the two houses that are already there in the parking lot, it's kind of tough to say. But is there not to overthink it, but there's a way we can just somehow modify that little stretch? If we're not allowed to put it in conservation, we can take out that little tiny stretch of conservation, can't we? I think I'm saying if we don't, I don't want to. If it's against the rules, we can't break the rules. No matter what we vote, we're not allowed to break our rules.
Right.
And we're allowed to change rules in certain aspects for something like this. I mean, this is not. I mean, I would never argue for doing something within a conservation zone. But this is a parking lot within. This is an existing parking lot within a conservation zone that this doesn't really have any impact on anything. So I'm a bit kind of seems a bit
That's what I
seems
mean.
very strange, right?
So I mean, it's a strange
So-
one, right? I went down and looked at it and
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of weird.
Right.
I think Director Schwartz could give us some direction there with regards to the rules.
Yes, so in general, as you mentioned, we generally don't regulate fences, but this came forward because it is located in the conservation zone, so we had to review it. In general, permanent structures in the conservation zone are not permitted, unless for safety reasons. So one could potentially look at it in a way, and that, as the mayor indicated, if there is a concern about the kind of safety and privacy and proximity to this parking lot, that could, is something that could possibly be considered as just to create a safer environment for the residential property. But But that's kind of why this came forward for review and direction. Okay.
And that's the impression I got from the resident today, right?
Is there, Mr. Mayor, is there a way to show the picture that we're looking on online, just show that up?
I don't know.
Is that possible, just so concerned citizens at home can actually see what we're talking about?
You could. You could open up the council package on there, right?
Is that the, up there?
I'm in your way. Didn't realize that.
Mayor, the residents can see the package online already, right?
Right, they can already see it.
It's posted the same time that council receives it. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure why posting it on.
Yeah, there's probably no point. Anybody that's watching online can click on the link and see it.
Well, yeah, so I guess the diagram that I think explains it's kind of is on page 86 and 87, is the exact location of the fence. So it's not really, I guess technically it's a conservation, but it's parking lot conservation zone. I've never had that before, right? I don't know how to process that.
And I think part of it is actually in the RMD, so they could essentially put up 5 feet of the fence if they wanted to.
And took it in as their own property, and nobody might even know it.
And I do appreciate the fact that the residents did kind of come to us and ask. So we did hear back from Eastern Habitat Joint Venture representatives and say, oh, geez, no, you can't. If there are any impacts, we actually took a look at it. So again, I don't know how to compute this, right?
It's a weird one. Anybody else?
I'd like to add some closing remarks. Appreciate everyone's commentary and
Just a second, Councillor Martin. Councillor Pollard, did you have any comment?
I tell you, I looked at, I did double take when I saw the motion, because I read all the same things that your worship had read in terms of the recommendations, and nobody had any issues with it. I know it's problematic in that when we do with anything, when we have, buffers and zones and everything along those lines, but, looking at this one, I tell you, it's hard to say a no to letting someone put up that fence there when it really has no impact on what's going on there. I would have a tendency to say, yes, go along with the fence. Make a minor adjustment to the conservation zone if we have to. I'm sure we can do that without doing a plan amendment or anything along those lines for the amount that's there.
I mean, you're not talking like hundreds of, sorry, shut up.
Anybody else? No? Good. Councillor Martin?
thank you. In summary, committee understands that it's a fence. It's a very small request, and the resident. We're not questioning the validity of the resident's mandate in installing a fence. He or her would have the reasons to put one up, and I believe I heard a comment mentioned earlier about protecting their property from the adjacent parking lot. Committee isn't
Not the property themselves, if they're sitting there in their chairs
Okay.
with cars shooting.
very
around.
well. Thank you for clarifying. Question is not a validity of if a fence would be applicable or not for that area. As Councillor Thorne-Goss mentioned earlier, it's the broader statement that we're making with the precedent. From a parking lot adjacent to that property to Shale on Motion Drive to another fence request that I've seen come in some while ago for Spray Lane. We could sit here and compare cheese and chalk all night, but it's the broader statement of how we're going to move forward with future applications. Our precedent right now is that we have a blanket statement. If it's conservation, we don't develop. So even by modifying something as simple as permitting a fence or something as simple as taking away a platform that chairs were on, this is more so a question of our prerogative moving forward and how we're ensuring safety and conservation of our conservation zones, or it's going to set a precedent on let's tweak here and there to fit this or that in. So it really comes down to picking and choosing between residents, and I don't think that that's our mandate. I think our mandate is to protect the conservation zone and continue with our current precedent that we have a blanket statement that no means no. So I continue to support the motion and committee's recommendation, and I'll vote as I had intended.
Okay, so all in favour of denying the fence?
on denying the fence, in favor of the motion.
Yeah, oh, sorry. All in favor of the motion, please.
All right.
Opposed to the motion?
Oh, you mean take down the fence? Sorry.
The motion was to deny the application to put up the fence.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't, is it too late?
So,
Do we need to do a revote, Mayor?
well, if you didn't realize, all right,
I really didn't realize it was just,
okay. So let's just be clear before we vote.
yeah.
Mayor, would it be easier if the clerk read the motion back?
Yes,
so
please.
everyone understands?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I mean,
Motion was to refuse the proposal.
Can you use your microphone, Kim, please?
I don't have it back.
Oh, okay, all right. Do you want me to read it out?
You can go ahead if you like.
All right. Motion to refuse proposed construction of 6-foot wooden fence in the rear yard of accessory building at 24 Lower Street, as the proposed fence is located in the conservation zone. The shoreline habitat stewardship unit, as the construction of permit structures is contrary to the Torbay Municipal Plan, conservation policies, and contrary to the conservation land use zone. So that was the motion. So, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion passes.
can I make another motion in the same area of that? That we redo the motion on the,
I think that with that is that our staff can go back to the applicant and ask them if they want to ask for a rezoning of that little area, that they could move forward with that.
because it means.
We don't need a
you know,
motion for that, right? No, we can just have a conversation with them.
It's a quick thing, so you could plant trees or put some other type of divider, perhaps, fences.
Yes.
Fence is one thing, yeah.
Okay.
where's, you know,
Everybody,
All right, thank you. Carry on. Is that, do you have any more, Councillor Martin?
My apologies, I just lost my page. That was the fence. Yes, there is more. The next one, excuse me, is located at 110 Quigley's Lane, application number C2020-111. The land use zone is a residential infill. The proposal is a home business for wildlife rehabilitation. Torbay Development Regulation 2015 to 2025 amendment. Excuse me. The background, the town of Torbay is in receipt of the application proposing to operate a wildlife rehabilitation with external enclosures at 110 Quigley's Lane. The proposal includes rehabilitating local songbirds, seabirds, waterfowl, corvids, hares, squirrels, excuse me, but does not include birds of prey, coyotes, or any species that would pose a hazard to human or pet safety. So these are all very small animals. Correspondence by the applicant and a location map are attached for reference. Torbay Development Regulation 2015 to 2025. The development regulations currently do not list, define, and classify the proposed use, hence it is not permitted. If council was supportive of the proposal, a text amendment to the development regulations would be required. And the recommendation is Department forwards the proposal for a proposed wildlife rehabilitation operation at 110 Quigley's Lane to the committee for further discussion. And my apologies, do we need a motion for that?
Yeah,
It
it's
was in your
motion.
motion number 6. Okay, so moved.
second. Oh,
Moving to
I
second.
can't do it, I'm not.
It's all
on the
right, you can
committee.
second it, it's seconded. Councillor Roach, second. Any questions about that?
The reason why I'm seconding the motion, because as you all know, I feed everything and try to help everything. But we're also expanding our own, people of the world are expanding to take in, and help our critters and whatever like that. And I mean, even in Africa and to different places. They haven't probably got enough food for their children, but they will, you know, survive, let something like this go on in their own village, you know, where they'd take in the animals and get them back to where they can be released to the wild again. And I think, I'm not saying that we don't feed our children, but anyway, I really think it's something that I'd love to be involved in, but, you know, and maybe will, but if it goes ahead. But we have to take care of everything that's on this planet, and we're losing so many species now because of the different things in our environment happening, and over hunting and all that stuff like that. And we really need to try to keep, you know, a good yin and yang there, you know, with everybody and our little ones.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Did I bring a tear to your eye? No?
Peggy, your eyes brings tears to my eyes.
No, but that's true.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And that's, oh, you got one more down there bottom, buddy?
Yeah. Okay. Next, we have approvals in principle, and I believe this is just a report.
Yeah, you don't have to read all of them out,
No.
just pass the motion.
Okay. Following applications were approved subject to normal conditions and requirements for building within the town of Torbay. Permits will be issued once all the Torbay conditions requirements have been met. So moved.
Or seconder, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. Moving on. Admin and Finance. Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. There was a meeting on the 18th of August. I was not present. Deputy Mayor Appleby, Mayor Scott, our CEO, and our Director of Community Services, Jacqueline Kudlow, was there. They reviewed some correspondence related to the gas tax agreement and the approval of Oro and the update on the Municipal Assessment Agency. Can't speak to those details because I wasn't there. There are some motions coming from the meeting. I'll read out the usual reports first, though. July expenditures and payroll, 194 expenditures recorded during July, totaling $516,085.19. Payroll for the period June 25th to the 8th of July for 40 employees totaled $80,705.02, and payroll for the period July 9th to the 22nd for 40 employees totaled $87,176.15. There were a number of routine payments, or regular payments, I guess we do, and we decided we were going to continue to approve those. So Receiver General of Canada payroll deductions June 16th to the 30th in the amount of $37,826.62. Payroll deductions for July 1st to the 15th in the amount of $24,557.97. Trio benefits for July 20th group benefit premiums in the amount of $12,054.40. CIBC Mellon for the June 2020 pension was $18,586.68. Newfoundland Power June 2020 street lighting and gateway sign in the amount of $19,798.11. I note that there was a group credit. I don't know exactly what that credit was in total, but I guess those folks who are at the meeting would know what that is. And that rendered the other group building essentially to zero, when it probably would have been in the order, same magnitude of the 19,000-ish. T2 Ventures in June 20 garbage and recycling in the amount of $42,771.95. And the Municipal Assessment Agency third quarter assessment fees in the amount of $25,434.50, all for a total of $181,030.23. So moved.
Second.
Mover and a seconder. So the motion here is to ratify routine payments. So they've already been all paid. So we're not approving those, we're just ratifying them. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Sorry, Your Worship, I pressed the wrong button here. I gotta go back in again now. Bear with me for a second. Sorry, folks. Okay, the other invoices that were there was a Stuart McKelvey amount for one of the common change orders in the amount of $8,846.95. Fundamental Inc. for the project payment building number 2 for History House in the amount of $25,035.50. Progressive Engineering and Consulting Inc. for the street estimates and survey work in the amount of $9,194.25. Mercer's Paving for speed hump installation in the amount of $23,460. Calibro Insurance for recreation accident policy in the amount of $9,603. Beard's Asphalt Maintenance for the line painted for the town in the amount of $18,738.68. East Coast Fencing for the upper three-corner softball field backstop in the amount of $14,938.50. And the town of Flat Rock for the fire department satellite station in the amount of $8,180.42. So moved.
Second.
Sorry, all in the amount of $108,394.30. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
There's one more motion, I think, or two more. The Torbay History House siding removal and asbestos abatement. There's a recommendation here that the town of Torbay award the scope of work, History House siding removal and History House asbestos abatement to Impact Construction based on the lowest bid for a total value of $14,501.50 inclusive of HST. Awarding this work is at the recommendation of Fundamental Inc., the project manager of the History House restoration. So moved.
Second.
Mover and seconder. Questions?
It's this budgeted item, right?
It's part of the project.
Yeah. It's not any extra, basically what I'm saying.
In the project budget.
As I said, if you look at the project page, there's almost $1 million for restoration, and this is the first thing we've awarded under
Yep.
that budget.
Yeah. It's a standard question I ask every time, so.
Yeah.
Ask her when we get close to the $1 million range.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next one is to award the financing for the, based on the approval of Borough for the softball lights. So the town of Torbay borrow $583,044.25 from TD Bank to pay expenditures related to the installation of softball field lights on the senior softball field at Upper Three Corner Pond. This loan will be amortized over 5 years with a 10-year term. The interest rate will be at 1.76% and a payment of $5,302.26 per month. This is a budget item for 2020. The loan is subject to the approval of the former Department of Municipal Affairs and Environment, now known as the Department of Environment, Climate Change and Municipalities. So moved.
Second.
Mover and seconder. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So ends my report, Your Worship, unless I missed something.
Thank you, sir. Everything else is attached there for council and the public's. Councilor
I
Ross?
just got to make a comment. There was, with regards to the development, planning and development, the
Yeah.
minutes weren't reviewed, and there's a number of items in the minutes that really should be brought to everybody's attention. They're outstanding. We just went through the motions.
Right. Okay, so once we're done here, this is finance. If there's something that you feel needs to be brought up, you can bring
Yeah.
it up. You don't need to go through the whole thing.
No, there are ones that motions that can be eliminated, but there's a few more that
Oh, you mean from the
from the
action
minutes.
report, you mean?
From the minutes. Well, the action
Oh,
report
okay.
is one thing, but in the minutes, and
All
there's
right.
one in particular that the deputy mayor had been asking about inquiring that's been on the go for a while, and there's an update there in the minutes on that, so
Okay, all right,
I know there's different people that have got an interest.
sure. Ending in that finance report that you want to talk about, Tony? No?
No, I think it's all
Okay.
pretty well self-explanatory when.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, we'll just jump back there. Councilor Martin?
Thank you. My apologies for that oversight. I don't find it as accommodating navigating electronically opposed to paper, but I'll go back to the July 21st meeting minutes. Myself, Councillor Thorne Goss and Director Schwartz and Deputy Mayor Appleby were in attendance. There's discussion on the motions we recently just passed for 1216 Corner Path. Excuse me. We also have some long-term planning amendments and policy development. 21 Spray Lane. There's also a fence construction matter there in a conservation area. Land acquisition, appraisal and amendment. Update of the town centre plan, comprehensive development scheme. A direct building on 44 Howlett's Avenue. And a Motion Drive shale matter, which I believe is in the next set of minutes, and I'll elaborate further there. And going down to page 55 of 165, the August 19th meeting, we had discussed 398 Pine Line, 439 Pine Line, and 115 Quigley's Lane, 2124 Lower Street, 402 and 404 Pine Line, 21 Spray Lane, land acquisition. We discussed the wildlife rehabilitation and enclosures on 110 Quigley's Lane. We also have our municipal enforcement officer reports for, one moment please. On page 57 of 165, we have our MEO reports for July 27th and August 10th. Our community centre, commonly referred to as Torbay Common, seems to have become a hangout again for evening trespassers. It was brought to committee's attention that the gate at Three Island Pond was left open past 10 p.m. So after discussion, we weren't sure where that, how that had happened. So we asked Director Schwartz to follow up and ensure that it's closed. We also discussed briefly an impounding vehicle policy, which is an ongoing matter which staff are working on. Various different modules and scenarios there, as well as our neighbourhood watch initiative. The committee, we did meet with residents on site at the Motion View Close shale issue. This has been something that's been a reoccurring matter. Myself, Councillor Thorne Goss, Director Schwartz, and Ms. Hicks from TEAC met with a group of residents on site and viewed significant amounts of damage on siding and dwellings from shale that happens during windstorms. It is a very unique circumstance, and we were there with an intention of information gathering purposes to try and determine how we can move forward. You know, it's certainly something beyond our expertise, and it's something we're going to have to consult with engineers and our provincial and federal counterparts as it's coastline, and you know, you get Fisheries and Oceans Canada involved and whatnot. Residents are concerned, especially with a windstorm coming. It's supposed to be a bad wind season this year. They're concerned about the integrity of their house. I know initially, you know, different comments that have evolved over the years have been something, you know, with regards to a fence, which again in conservation isn't going to work. But given the climax of the shale, how high it reaches properties, I don't believe a fence, in my own opinion, would be beneficial. So there's various components that need to be looked at there, and it is a work in progress. And we discussed permit listings. I know there was I know I was remote last meeting, and I due to a personal matter I was late attending. via phone. I know a conversation did evolve around committee's intent on permit listings. I read some articles in the Times and I watched the last meeting. Just a point of clarification, committee's only objective there was to accommodate a staff request. When staff are sending out notices concerning...
Can I just interrupt you there for a
Okay.
second? We already dealt with that last meeting. That
Okay.
was a motion that was dealt
Okay.
with, so we
Okay,
don't
very
need to
well.
discuss that again.
Okay. We discussed a North Pond water supply study, South Pond rezoning, terms of reference for Turbay Environment Advisory Committee, and further to Councillor Thorngoss's comment, we had discussed an inquiry about AAA quarry by TEAC, and the committee requested that Director Shorts follow up again with Forestry to determine timing of the cut, to prepare a letter to AAA regarding applicable conditions and to advise TEAC, which is for the benefit of all those viewing, is Torbay Environmental Advisory Committee, is a volunteer committee of the town. Of this letter going out, Director Shorts advised that she will follow up and look into who legally is required to be followed by AAA as it relates to their quarry operations, which have been ongoing since approximately 2009. And as well, now we have our new DCO officer, Paul, and he's already started reviewing a series of delinquent properties to follow up on.
Is there anything in particular of note that we're looking for in here in this report?
Could I ask a point of clarification?
Yeah,
The council package is posted on Friday.
I don't see the reason in going through all this.
And the motions come forth for council decision.
Right.
If there's questions on the background documentation, would council or residents not query prior to the council meeting? If we read everything verbatim, just from a time perspective?
I was just going to ask that question. Councillor Martin, is there something in here in particular that is?
I gave an overview of the minutes as I was requested. I know there has been, there is a series of items in here I think that were beneficial to recognize. There's reoccurring conversations and questions. So I believe I've gave a brief overview of our minutes from the last two meetings, and
All right.
if anyone has any further commentary, they can interject. If not, I'm satisfied.
All right, okay, thank you.
There was one important one there I'm looking at, is North Pond water supply study.
Right,
And that's something that I guess is going to come forward to a committee of the whole, or hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
okay.
That was talked about, that we'll be getting a written report from the consultant.
All right, that's a
And
good
if
one.
we're only going to do motions, then I'm looking at infrastructure and public works is only an overview of everything, so
Right.
what are we doing? Are we only going to present motions from our reports from the
We
future?
present motions and any pertinent or important background information that we feel is beneficial to everybody. Everybody has this council package, all the public
Yeah,
has it,
but I'm just
everybody has
looking
all
at, for right now, with regards to any of the other reports that are in there,
Right.
if there's no motions, are we just going to skip over them?
If there's something in there important that you feel that is beneficial to the public, I would,
Well, if we're
Which is what we
taking
just
time,
did.
if we're taking time to have a meeting of a committee, I'm thinking, then there's items that are outstanding in there, I think it's worthwhile bringing forward. I mean, there was some items in here that we're getting constant questions on that needs to be brought forward, and if anybody's listening, or even in the package, to make sure that it's on the radar.
that's a fair comment.
That's what I just want to be brought up and made sure,
Yeah.
because not everybody is taking the time to go through those packages.
That-
So the comment that was just made in the question by our CAO, I'm wondering, will I just pass on our Infrastructure and Public
No,
Works
no, no,
Committee?
no, no, no. If you feel there's
Well-
important information in your report that you should share, then share it. That doesn't mean that we have to read out the entire report. If we got a 60-page report from a committee, there's no need to go through the whole thing. And,
Well, that's what happens when the meetings are only once a month.
So, just a point of comment, I suppose.
Go ahead.
Just, and very brief, because I don't want to beat stuff too much to death. But it seems like we have this conversation every couple of months, and if the answer is always the same, or supposed to be always the same. We have reports there, and people, if anyone is not reading their stuff, then they shouldn't be having the seat around here. But what we do is, we propose the stuff, it's there, everyone reads it, but again, I'm totally for, we don't have to read out there's a medium, you don't have to read out every single line for line, but basically give a little executive summary. This is what we did, so that the public is made aware, and if there's anything pertinent information, you certainly do it, but you don't need to do it line by line. So it's not like either don't share anything or read the whole thing. There's obviously, we've talked about this multiple times. Yeah.
Must be echo here, is it?
I know. I'm supporting you. I'm just totally agreeing. I'm totally agreeing with you. So put that in the minutes, Mr. Mayor. Right, first time.
Without going into great further discussion, but I just want to say I think I want to speak in favour of my colleague. Councillor Thorne-Goss, she wanted me to give a brief overview
and you did.
Of the minutes, which I did. I don't think it's appropriate for her to be scrutinised for that. If any time a member wants to emphasise minutes, for transparency and, in efforts to keep everything rolling, keep everyone informed. If someone has a question or if someone wants something to be elaborated on, he or she shouldn't feel intimidated to do so. If you want to say something, you should be able to do it without the fear of being scrutinised.
I totally agree.
Thank you.
Which is why, when I asked my question about the fence, was because I read the package before I showed up here today, and I had that question. So, with that in mind, let us move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where are we to? Economic development and tourism.
That'll be back to me.
Back to you.
I need a refill on my ginger ale. No, Peggy, I'm only kidding. If you're going to give me one. The minutes are enclosed. I do, on the agenda it says that there's motions, but I don't see any motions enclosed. So if the clerk could please indicate if there are any motions.
There are any motions.
They're not? There are not? Okay. So on our August 20th meeting, myself and Deputy Mayor Appleby met with Deanne Lawrence, our EDTO. We discussed the Economic Strategic Roadmap, kick-off meeting number 1 and on July 28th. We also discussed the Business Bulletin, issue number 6, the Torbay Business Awards, the Neighbourhood Board of Trade, and we had some business arising reports, which included the History House engagement held on August 13th. Mayor Scott, if you wouldn't mind, as I wasn't at that meeting, I know I did get a lot of positive feedback from Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you. So I'd appreciate if you could just lightly elaborate on that meeting.
Sure.
Would you like to do that now, or would you like me to finish the...
you go ahead and finish, and then I'll just...
Thank you. We also discussed tourism and culture and heritage, and we concluded at 7:44. But I know Deputy Mayor was ecstatic with how well the meeting went, so I was hoping you could just elaborate a little bit on how it went and our projections and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So we had the public engagement meeting with the people who signed up to talk about the History House, and we were sharing ideas about where we want to go with it and how we are looking at now putting the board in place. And basically it was a chance for us to gather information from the people who put their names forward and anybody else that signed up to participate in the public engagement piece. So then the EDO take all that information away, and they're going to come up with a recommendation on how to move forward with the board piece. I think it'll come to committee of the whole, and we'll have a discussion with it as council and see how we're going to move forward. The construction has started, which is excellent, so hopefully we'll be able to move this thing forward pretty fast. The expertise that we had participated in that meeting was really, I don't know what word to use, but it was very good. There were certainly people within this town that have a lot of experience and expertise in operating nonprofits and museums and cultural heritage places. So I think that we're off to a good start. And once we get that rolling, we'll be in a good place. I mean, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. And that ends my report.
All right, thank you. Infrastructure, Public Works, Councillor Thorngas.
Okay, we didn't have a meeting, so it's an update. So
Okay.
as there's no motions or what have you in there, I'm assuming if anybody's got any questions, they can ask. If not, I'll leave it be.
No, you can. If you
No?
I have two comments I want to make during the report about two matters.
go ahead.
If and when I may. I received, I just want to acknowledge I received communication from a resident, and I have it in writing, which I will forward to committee concerning road conditions on Ready Drive. So I want to acknowledge that, and I will have that in your inbox by the morning. I'll forward it to committee for follow-up. And also the resident on Moores Valley Road, which has a water issue, him and I have been in contact today. And I understand you received a copy of his report, but needs a follow-up. He said nobody had contacted him to go over it with him. So I wanted to bring that forward and request that someone connect with him. I'm not sure if Director Winter did.
Sure. So I actually dropped the report off and explained it to him when I was down there.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what follow-up
Could
he's
you
referring to.
reconnect with him? Maybe I think he has some additional.
I can, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to elaborate on. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Add something in line with that as well.
If you have questions about this report, is that what you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it's, because, road to Panland, we go from the country drive and come down the other side from home, it's awful over there. So it's a bad one up because they got the bumps and stuff like that there. But, as you go over, around, come down and go down this hill there, it's really deplorable, it's really chunky, like, it's like the asphalt actually dissipated or something, like, Is there something you can do for the, people who use those roads? Because it really needs to be done.
Well,
Just
to-
patch it up or something.
I mean, to your point, our crews are out all the time fixing potholes and doing patching. We got a list of roads here that we put forward a tender to get our road work done. So our road work hasn't taken place yet this year, our majority of our road work.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's all those. If anybody has,
No, my son's,
Right.
driving my car, and he said, oh, this is gone over here is awful.
but I get inquiries all the time about roads. People complain about this or that, and I automatically, immediately forward them to the staff so they can be looked at right away.
Yeah.
Right?
And I want to thank you all for putting our name on down our way, the Red Drive, sorry, Tondale Drive and those areas, and
Good.
St. Fitzwilliams. What is it? Camden Lane.
Cavan Lane, yeah.
And, where it's all done like that, because they got our,
Okay.
we got our
Do you have-
bumps and bumps.
Do you have any more questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Jeff?
We're talking about the infrastructure, public works, right?
Yeah.
Confirm. And again, Councillor, when we were talking about being verbose with the minutes, it was just
Did you have a question?
I absolutely, yeah, so I just,
Okay.
okay, because I don't want to go through and highlight everything for people type of thing. But the main question I have is, and I mentioned this last time last meeting we had, was regarding trail development. So I've been talking to a lot more and more residents, and, one person came up to me and was like, Jeff, where's our trails at? I thought it was, I kind of laughed at how they said it. But again, I could see here in the minutes, it says, waiting on license to occupy Western Island Pond Brook Trail. And I know not everyone is 100% in favor necessarily of the trail, but this has been, I don't think it's good enough for us to be saying, hey, we sent an email 18 months ago, and we're still waiting. If we're still waiting and this is not happening, we should be, and there's not any one person, I'm not saying one person, I'm saying it's us, it's our responsibility. It's not good enough for us to just sit there and wait. And if we're not getting a response from them, then we should make an alternate plan to get some type of progress done on our trails, right? Like we've got a $100,000 commitment to stuff, right? So-
Yes, but I don't think that's a fair comment. Our
What?
staff have been constantly in
Sure.
contact with Department of Municipal Affairs, trying to get this license to occupy,
Right.
so we can go do the trail work that we have in the plan.
But I'm saying at some point, it's up to us, and it's not against any persons. But I'm saying if we're trying to go A, and A is a roadblock, and we're stuck, and we're banging our heads for multiple years on making any progress in this direction, then maybe it behoove us to say, hey, geez, maybe we should try Plan B or Plan C. And that's what I was specifically asking about last time. If this is not happening, then where's a Plan B? Where else can we go? We can't stymie the progress of Torbay Trails because we're not getting an email back from someone on this specific trail. That there's lots of other places we could be building, right? Because we're falling years behind, and it's not good enough. So,
Well, I don't,
right.
CAO?
Just to clarify, so we have emailed the Director of Crown Lands, the Assistant Deputy Minister with Municipal Affairs. We got caught crossed in a cabinet, the new cabinet being sworn in, so the departmental, there was no action being taken on any government initiatives until the new government was sworn in, and we've asked the MHA as well to follow up. All our trails, we've applied blanket for license to occupy. So we're following the process. I know it's taken lengthy, and it's not for lack of trying on our end. We have correspondence that goes back right from when we applied to current day. I'd say it's in double digits the number of times we've followed up. But getting the license to occupy is the proper process, no matter where a trail is located.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So we anticipate that the budget will be allocated and the trail will be built this year. We have the crews ready to go. We're just waiting for the license to occupy.
All right, and,
Thank you.
okay, these things take time. We built more trails in this town in the last 4 or 5 years than ever was built, because there was zero built before that. So we're doing good. We got to catch up and get our process the way it needs to be, so that we don't put in a piece of trail and then have to take it out and waste money. So we want to make sure that we do things correctly. And I think the people that I talked to, they're pretty happy with the trails that we got. And they're looking forward to more, I agree, and I am too. All right, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions on that? All right, moving on, Recreation Community Services, Councillor Glant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess number one, maybe I'll just start with the minutes. Actually, no, I'll start off with the big fish here. Facility rental agreement. Basically, we provided a committee with the final facility rental agreement. The document has been provided to council in April, in May, and in June. And basically, we now have the motion for adopting said rental agreement as presented. So I'd like to move excuse me. I'd like to move that the Town of Torbay adopt the Town of Torbay Common Facility Rental Agreement as presented. So move.
Second.
Over, seconder, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Oh, okay.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, everybody. We did have a meeting, going to the minutes here now, Tuesday, August 11th. The mayor was in attendance, as was I as chair, and our director of Recreation and Community Services. Items discussed, we talked about the rental facility agreement, or facility rental agreement, sorry. Then we also talked about the acoustic reports for Torbay Common. So we're getting that report there. So the director has reviewed the numbers with committee. We had an extenders update. That's what that's going to be required training for installation. And we talked about the beautification / silver spades. There were 12 total submissions. Staff's looked at the different properties, and we're recommending that we do the presentation of the awards in physical distancing. So stay tuned for that. With regards to program updates, summer camp's going well. Torbay birthday was good. Virtual Mario Kart was Andrew McGraw basically won that competition. So I think it's a nice first step to do. We had a Sell It movie. We've got some outdoor yoga going. Communities in Bloom. Pictures have been submitted. And then with regards to our sports updates, we talked about that. Minor soccer is up and running, and minor softball is up and running. And for the fall program update, staff's been working on the September programs. There's a snapshot there that includes a whole lineup of things. Of course, it's been very challenging with mandatory masks and stuff, so some things are up in air, but line dancing, dance, pickleball, active start, active living, ball hockey, basketball, archery, crafts, yoga classes. So staff's been working very diligently to put together some good stuff. And also, committee did discuss update on trails and encouraged everyone just to work together to do what we got to do to get that done. And that is it.
Questions? Councillor Stormglass?
Beautification Silver Spades Awards, when is that supposed to take place?
I don't think there's a date set yet for the awards, because we talked about whether we wanted to do it virtually or in person, but I think we're recommending that this is something that can be done outside at the rec center, physically distanced outside. So they're still finalizing the date.
Can we have it as soon as possible so that the signs can go on the properties and people can be acknowledged for their properties and be able to drive around rather than what we did last year?
Yeah, it was kind of late. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
late so that the signs can go on there and people can be made aware early on so that they have the opportunity to get out and see their gardens when it's at its best.
Yep, that's not a bad idea. I'm sure we'll get that done as soon as we can.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Where were you? Liaison Committees. Atlantic Mayor's Congress is meeting next weekend. I've decided I wasn't going to travel to this one in particular, simply because of the COVID-19 and Atlantic bubble. I just didn't feel right about going, so I already advised them I wasn't going. There's nothing to report intergovernmental. Jack Byrne, Councillor Pollard, nothing.
No update since last time.
Northeast Avalon Joint Council, Councillor Stormglass.
No.
Constabulary is nothing to report. I'm going to reach out to Chief Boland this week to see what the status of that traffic patrol thing is. I spoke to him about a month ago, and I think I'll follow up with him again. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Thank you. There was a meeting last Monday evening. They're still meeting by Zoom, the fire department. They reviewed a series of calls they had in their normal housekeeping. We recently approved moving some funds that they requested within their budget to accommodate some renovations up at their training facility. And other than that, all is going status quo, and everyone's adapting well to the ever-evolving criteria with the COVID.
All right, perfect, thank you. UMC, our next UMC meeting is going to be September 13th. Thank you, Don. And I just sent out the notification to all the members, as I am the chair of that, and we're hopefully going to have a lot of good stuff to discuss this time. We're going to have our CAOs and our economic development officers included. Don't be shaking your head, Tony. He loves it.
Yeah.
Oh my. Anyway, so that's that. That's update. We got no notices of motion. New business. Councillor Glant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to very quickly say it's good to be back in the chambers with everybody. It's actually, as much as we all love Zoom, it's can be a bit can wear you down a little bit after X number of weeks, X number of months. And I just really want to say thanks to the staff and everyone who made this possible, because just need to acknowledge that this is not easy things, right? This is an evolving situation. You know, rules are changing and situations changing. And so we're all here physically distanced, and everyone's doing the best they can. And I know a lot of work went into it. So I just really wanted to acknowledge the staff. We got our, we've got our Torbay face masks there and everything like that. So we just want to say thanks. It doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated. Certainly, I don't think anyone on council does, or the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pollard pass, Dormouse pass, Brooks pass. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I more much the same wanted to express a thanks to all of our frontline workers, staff, and all the residents. I know it's certainly been something I didn't anticipate I'd experience in my lifetime, this pandemic, and I look forward to a day, rather hopefully sooner than later, that things can be back to normal. And I also want to thank our first responders and our police and paramedics and our fire department. I know we recently had a fire, a house fire recently in the town, and it was in the Telegram how well the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department responded. It was great. I heard sirens all evening, and they had an overwhelming response, and everyone was safe, thankfully. So I wanted to express thanks all around, and I look forward to a day that we can all be back to normal and continue on.
Great. Thank you. I just got a couple things there I want to mention. Congratulations to Andrew Fiore on being sworn as the new Premier. We got a new Municipal Affairs Minister, Derek Bennett. I believe his name down right. Derek Bennett. Yeah. And thank you to Derek Bragg, former minister, for the work that he did when he was in that portfolio. Thank you to our staff here and council at the town. I know that and I echo what Councillor Glenn said, it's nice to be back here and be able to have a meeting in somewhat normal circumstances, because I'm zoomed out. I am. And zoomed out, and it gets you zoned out too sometimes, you know. And I also want to acknowledge the work that our staff has been doing, trying to work within the confines of the regulations around COVID-19, running programs, meeting with residents, all these things that we normally just take for granted is not able to be taken for granted right now, because there's so much stuff that's in the works that what normally would take you 5 minutes to get sorted out might take you a day, you know. So I just want to acknowledge that, and that staff's been doing a great job. For the residents, you know, it's been a great summer. The weather has been hot, and everybody's been out using our trails and our facilities, and you know, it's nice to see people get out and be able to move around the town. Don't forget, as of yesterday, everybody has to have their mask on. So people watching will notice that we're sat here now, we don't have our masks on, but we had them on when we were moving through the town hall before we sat down. We're physically distanced here, spaced out enough that we can take our mask off during our meeting, which I'm glad that we could, because with my glasses and mask on, there's no way I'd be able to read anything on the council package. It would have been a really quick meeting. So that in mind, and also before we have our next meeting, which is on September the 8th, or right after we have that meeting, schools are going to open. So people, be careful out driving on the roads, and particularly this year, it looks like there's going to be issues with busing. Potentially there's going to be more people out on the road, more parents driving their kids to the schools. Please take your time in the school zones, obey the speed limits, watch out on the crosswalks, and you know, we want to make sure all of our kids go to school and get home. So, you know, keep that in mind as we move closer to school opening. The kids are going to have enough on their mind, and the parents as well, trying to cope and deal with COVID-19 concerns. We don't want to be adding additional concerns onto our residents and to ourselves and everybody for rushing around, always being in a rush. If there's one thing this COVID has taught me, slow down and relax and see what's going on before you jump. And with that, I don't have nothing else to add. I think that was enough. Well, it's about a minute and a half.
Mayor, I have my mic off, but there's this investing in, there's a motion here for water system upgrades, is that for tonight?
Just about, that's from 5 years ago. Oh, I don't know what that is.
Oh, sorry, July 20th, 2020.
That was last,
Last meeting,
that was last meeting. Jeez, Justin, you had me worried there for a second. So, with that, oh, hang on, I got a question. Comment, actually, it's more of a comment than a question. It's just the one, Don?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and this came in from Madeline Florent, and it's with regard to trail maintenance. She says, if there's time during the Q&A, having raised the issue of trail maintenance in the past, I would like to acknowledge and thank the town for the maintenance being done on our trails. The trails are looking so much better, and it's especially nice to see all the walkers on our trails during this pandemic. Thank you, Madeline. There you go. So, all is not lost with trails. And with that, our next public council meeting is scheduled to take place on Tuesday, September 8, 2020, 6:30 here in the council chambers. And just to advise everybody, we're getting back to our every 2-week schedule now, so that's a big step, just one meeting a month. And Councillor Thorngoss referenced that with so much information in our council packages. It'll be nice to get back to more of a regular schedule and be able to deal with our business quicker. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Motion, seconder, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.